What is up, guys? Welcome back. In this video, we are going to be talking about what it takes to be an aggressive player. There are a bunch of different ways to do it, and we're going to be breaking down each one. We're going to break this into two segments. One is going to be on the technical aspects, meaning the shots and what you have to do to actually execute them. And then the other one's going to be on the tactical, meaning shot location, how to affect your opponent, court position, and things like that. So let's get right into it. So with aggressive baselining, you're basically going to be using two main types of shots, and you can basically pick which one falls into what feels natural for you. So usually we're talking about driving the ball more, keeping a pretty linear flight path, and then also using really heavy balls. Now, heavy does not mean high loopy. You can use that to use it as a setup, but hitting a heavy ball just means that there's a lot of rotation on the ball, which actually allows you to hit certain parts of the court that aren't as available when you hit a flat ball. So what we're going to do for this section is we're going to be breaking down the technical things in order to hit those type of shots, and then I'll be hitting with somebody to kind of show you how those shots affect an opponent. All right, so I'm set up on the court. I have brought George back for his return performance. I'm going to start off with the flat ball. Now, I mentioned it in previous videos slightly, but I'm going to go a little more in depth on it. When you're hitting flat and trying to be aggressive, there's two main ways that we look at it, but let's start with the one that is inside the court or sitting high. You want to catch the ball at about shoulder height. The reason why, for most people, your shoulder height or around your chest is still above the height of the net. And by doing that, it allows you to actually have a very straight path without any interference of the net as you're aiming for targets. Gravity is going to pull it down as it gets to the other side of the net, so you're going to end up basically able to hit completely uninhibited by what may or may not get in your way if your timing is good. The main thing you have to make sure that you do is find the spot where the ball kind of sits for you. That's really important because you don't want to be fighting to get the ball back down into the court when you're trying to be hitting through the court and being really aggressive. That's just one extra added thing that you want to not have to think about. Now, it doesn't work every time, but for the most part, that's a good rule of thumb. You want to catch it kind of when it's floating. That way you're not fighting in the upward or downward momentum on the ball. So I'm going to turn the ball machine on, and I'm pretty much just going to hit a couple of those balls, and you're just going to watch where the racket gets set relative to where the ball is, and I'm just going to basically use my shoulder as a guide for rotating straight through the shot. So let's get George started up, and I'll just get my hands basically floating right around this position here, and that's right about where my shoulder is. So if you're trying to be aggressive, you would be in here and then just going straight through. This is pretty much with no real warm-up, but because there's nothing in my way, I don't really have to worry about doing a lot of extra work to fight the ball like that. Or when you try and step into it, then you're trying to really time it and come over it. So the goal is to find a spot where the ball sits for you and then just extend through, trying to keep your motion pretty much horizontal. And then from there, you're working with timing and targets, not really too much with the tactics part as yet. All right, so when it comes to the feet on the flat shot, we're really looking to do a lot of stepping through, keeping our body weight into the shot. Now, I just moved the camera here so you can kind of see me approaching it a little bit differently, but the concept is still the same. You want to get your body weight shifting towards the court and ideally even towards your target. So let's say I'm going to aim cross court. My closed stance will be relative to my target, meaning that I want to close my stance in cross court, which essentially ends up being almost semi-open. But because I'm in the court, my body weight's going in that direction, versus when you're behind the baseline and you go semi-open, you're usually putting your weight backwards on an angle. This one, you're going to be going forwards on that same angle. So I'm going to get George firing again, and now we'll just pay attention to the feet and the body shift at the same time, still trying to catch the ball at about the shoulder height. So we got the ball coming in, close it up, and hit through. Still trying to find it at the shoulder, up here. By the way, I am making all these. Hold, and through. One more time, just get the body weight towards the court, and through. So what's the goal when you're hitting the flat shots? Time. Time is 100% the goal. You're trying to make the ball get from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time. And the shortest amount of time is as straight a line as possible. And by adjusting your court position a little closer, you're doing even more of taking that time away. So as I try and hit the ball at an opponent, for example, I don't want to give them time to orient their feet. And by using a flat shot in good court position, that's a good way to basically stop them from being able to set themselves up. That's completely different from what we're about to go into next, which is how to use the heavy shot as an aggressive play. And then once we're done that one, I'll actually show you guys how to use both of them against an opponent and figure out which one works best for you. So when we're using the heavy shots, our goal is to get a lot of rotation on the ball, not necessarily to just hit it high. A lot of people misconstrue heavy balls with high loopy balls. They can be the same, but they aren't inherently the same. Heavy just means that the ball has a lot of rotation versus how hard you're hitting it. When you're hitting a heavy ball, you're going to be getting that spin from two main places. That swing path, meaning the racket going low to high, really sharply versus the extension. And then you're going to be getting a lot of that from leg drive upwards as well. Combine those two things, and you end up with a very fast rotating ball versus your normal rally shot where you might see a little bit of leg drive, but a lot of real rotation towards the court and more extension out, depending on how you like to play. When you hit the heavy ball, however, you actually open up different pieces of the court compared to a flat ball. Flat balls, because they don't have that type of spin, they tend to land deeper. Like we said, hitting through the court, giving your opponent less time. But the heavy ball is actually going to land shorter on purpose. That actually opens up the ability to hit sharper angles, get your opponent moving more. So tactically speaking, it's really good to use when you want to be a little more conservative with the safety, but still be aggressive with the location of where you're going. So technically speaking, the only thing we're really going to be focusing on is getting the legs to drive up through the shot, getting the acceleration to match at the same time, make sure the legs are engaged through the ball, and then just getting in the right position. So I'm going to get the ball machine firing away, and we're going to go right into looking at where these balls are landing in comparison to where the flat balls were landing originally. So provided the ball machine wants to cooperate, I'm going to have enough time to really isolate getting the legs down and up, and then I'll start moving the ball around. So George is ready to fire. First thing we're going to pay attention to is getting the legs really low and pushing up through the shot. You don't want to push towards the ball too much because that again gives you too much extension. You drop that leg low, really accelerate, and you can hear the difference in the sound when the racket's going vertical versus that pop that you get when you hit through the ball like this one. So that's just a completely different sound that you want to be going for. To get the racket down, get the legs up. Now as you can see, now that I got the timing and everything going, my ball's actually landing a little shorter, which is the goal because I want to hit sharper angles and different parts of the court. And in order to do that, you've got to be able to land the ball shorter. So if I hit that ball too deep, let's say I go for this angle, if I can't get the ball to drop, that's in the alley. But if I can get the ball to drop, oh, not like that one. If I can get that ball to drop, come on, George, give me another shot. There we go. That opens up different parts of the court. And I'm also generating these angles from pretty close to the center. So let's say I was to hit the ball from a different piece of the court, which the ball machine's not going to do right now. Let me just turn it off. Ha. Let's say I was to hit that same shot from further off the court. That actually opens up an even sharper angle to this side. And likewise on the backhand side. But if you noticed, my body weight, my body position never really shifted into the court unless the ball was shorter. My job was to get in the position where the ball's going to fall the second time, and you can even catch it lower because you're mainly going up, and then drive everything as fast as I can vertically. So if I was to do that against an opponent, I would combine hitting flatter to push them back with hitting up more to create more angle. And then you end up with a lot of different ways to be aggressive versus just your standard stand and deliver and hope for the best. You can actually become a little bit more tactical with it, which we'll get into in the next video. But on the technical aspect, that's really all you need to know is where your leg weight needs to be shifting and what your swing path needs to be doing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a hitting partner join me, and I'm going to have her, because it's Emily again, I'm going to have her just rallying with me, and I'm just going to call out when I'm going to change from hitting the ball in our normal rally phase to hitting maybe a heavier ball or a flat ball, and we'll just see if what I say matches the effect of what happens to her on the court. Quick side note, when you are using either of these, I mentioned it briefly kind of passing, but keep your racket face as level as possible, maybe a slight tilt to it. Too many people, when they think about trying to hit a heavy ball, they think they have to turn their wrist over or they have to do all this extra wrist action. Just let the natural motion of your shoulder carry the racket through when you go heavy. Just let the natural motion of your shoulder carry the racket through when you want to go flat. Don't try to do too much extra manipulation, and just let the racket face stay clean and let your body pretty much push the shot through. But now that I've dealt with that, let's get to me and Emily hitting on the court. All right, so like I said, I'm just gonna call out the changes in the rhythm as we play. So if I am not hitting a specifically flat aggressive ball or not a super heavy aggressive ball, then I'm not saying anything, but I'm going to announce whenever those shots are coming. And I wouldn't do it on the first one because that would be mean. Heavy. Nailed it. Heavy. So again, because I know I can bring that ball down in the court using a heavy ball, it's okay to attack with it at the right time. Flat. Flat. Come on. Heavy. So I was able to generate a little more angle with that shot. Even if she got it, it would have been falling on her reach when she got there. That's good. Okay. Heavy. Yeah, I got it down quick. I just got to open up the court more. Nobody saw it. Heavy. Easy opening. Now if I tried to hit that ball flat, I would have had to hit it to the baseline corner to even stand a chance of getting it to drop in. Flat. Heavy. There it is. All right, so that's going to wrap up part one of this video, guys. Like I said, you got to see me use the shot, got to see it in a couple situations. You guys got the technical concept of how to specifically hit those and how your legs should be oriented. In the next video, what we're going to talk about is tactically when to use them. So in the last game that I did with Emily, you heard me say heavy or flat at specific times. I'm going to go into why I chose to do it at those times, and hopefully by putting video one and video two together, you guys will be able to become way better and proficient at playing the aggressive baseline game. So that's going to wrap it up. We'll see you guys in the next one.